We were looking at what's been happening both in San Francisco, San Diego, Sacramento over the last several years, as well as up in Oregon. And this explosion of drug overdoses and drug addiction. And in looking at it, we believe that it's connected to bad public policy on the part of the state of California, part of San Francisco, the city and county of San Francisco, as well as the state of Oregon. And so our board of supervisors adopted a ordinance that basically said these types of practices, distributing harm reduction things, fentanyl test strips, needles, we're opposed to that. And we think it's better to take an approach that encourages people to stop using hardcore drugs rather than to mitigate the harm on a daily basis. So then last week they brought the lawsuit saying, despite the fact that we have much lower crime than most of the rest of the state of California, we need to follow these policies. And the important part to take a look at it is San Francisco started this. The harm reduction policies were started in San Francisco under the leadership of then DA George Gascon, who's now the DA in Los Angeles. And more than 10 years of that experiment has passed. And what has happened is just an explosion of overdose deaths, drug addiction, homelessness, people strung out on the street in San Francisco. So much so that San Francisco, they tried the policies, they didn't work. And San Francisco largely has abandoned those policies and are moving away from it, led by a very progressive Mayor, London Breed. And she's saying we need to do things to encourage people to get off the hardcore drugs rather than just mitigating the harm. Well, it's kind of shocking, stop to think about it, that the state of California has ignored San Francisco learning from those mistakes, Oregon now more recently learning from those mistakes, and they're seeking to impose them upon El Dorado County that has resisted it over the last many years. Well, the impact of it is this false belief that drugs like fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine won't kill you. And the truth is, probably the best example is methamphetamine. You can prevent someone on a daily basis from overdosing on methamphetamine if you have a nurse that's available. But within a very short period of time of using methamphetamine, your teeth will rot out. The inside of your body will rot out. And despite the best medical intervention, methamphetamine will kill you. Most of the rest of these hardcore drugs that we're talking about, they will kill you. It just is a matter of time, regardless of the best of medical interventions. And what we're saying, it's a incredibly short-sighted public policy thing to say, we're going to prevent them from killing you today, although we recognize it will kill you within the next several months or maybe a year. We're just going to mitigate the harm today. We met with the sheriff, myself, a number of other chiefs of police. We met with them and we said, you know what? We've taken a look at the problem. Yes, it's far better here than it is in other communities. We would like to use our own local strategies and keep this type of a thing outside of our county. And the state of California basically said, no, we're big brother. We're going to force you to adopt these policies, even though they have failed in San Francisco, even though they failed in Oregon and other locations. They're still attempting to force El Dorado County to adopt this type of a policy. Yeah, they have their own version of data, and they point to studies from 15 to 20 years ago on AIDS reduction. And what we're telling them is that's not what's happening today. I understand that's a serious problem. It was a very serious problem 15 or 20 or 25 years ago, but it's not today. The people that are dying on the streets of Sacramento, San Diego, or San Francisco, or Oregon are dying from drug overdoses in wholesale numbers, and we need to do something about that. They went through a charade. So because the law requires them to meet with us, which they did. And so they went through a charade where they pretended to listen to us. Then they immediately turned around and filed this lawsuit when we didn't agree with them. And they're seeking a preliminary injunction. And in the preliminary injunction, they say imminent harm will occur if the judge doesn't grant this injunction. Well, stop to think about it. Why did they bother to meet with us? Well, they had to meet with us because they were required to by statute to meet with us. But what's the imminent harm? It would be one thing if they, what's the rush, in other words, to impose this? I think this is a classic Big Brother type move to where they have very faulty statistics, faulty theories that they're pursuing, and completely unwilling to listen to us when we're saying, hey, there's a reason why drug overdoses are less here. Crime is less here. Drug addiction is less here. We don't want to adopt the policies that are going to make this problem worse, not better. This is like so many policies they're poor policies, but they are well-intentioned. I have no doubt that the people that are directly involved in this have good intentions. Yeah, again and again, I hear they will say this type of harm reduction, the decriminalizing of hardcore drugs, it doesn't increase hardcore drug use. And I say, well, then you explain to me why hardcore drug use in the state of California and the state of Oregon, the only two states that have done this, you explain to us why it has exploded in the last several years since you adopted these policies. What else has happened here that caused this to happen? These policies are the direct cause of the proliferation of drug addiction and drug overdoses, and they're naive to think otherwise. Our plans are to go, there's a complicated legal process. It will cost money. I mean, stop to think about it. The chief law enforcement officer of the state, being the Attorney General's office, is suing El Dorado County, saying, you need to listen to us, ignore your lying eyes, ignore the actual data that's out there on what this has done, and let us force this policy here in El Dorado County. We're definitely going to fight it. We're going to have to retain outside counsel, which we have, and lawyers that have been successful in another jurisdiction. This is an extraordinary type of lawsuit. It's really just like this has never happened before to our knowledge, but there's been similar ones in other areas. And so with that type of an approach, we're going to fight it. I'd like the people in Rob Bonta's, the Attorney General's office, to take a look at San Francisco and what's happening in San Francisco. San Francisco tried this policy. It failed. Now they're making a course correction and moving in a different direction. I mean, it's a policy that failed other places. It's not like we're saying in isolation that things are, wow, look at El Dorado County. Things are so much worse in El Dorado County than they are in San Francisco, the birthplace of this. No, it's the other way around. So why are you forcing it on us?
If you haven't checked out CaliforniaInsider.com, we highly recommend you do that now, because we're going to have a lot of news and videos there. And on top of what we have there right now, we are building a really big platform to cover what's happening in California, so you can be informed. We're going to have more shows, more videos from all aspects of life in California. Go to CaliforniaInsider.com and we'll see you there.